Kevin, this is Adrian. I'm the CEO of FloridaMakes, and we're here to talk a little bit with Adrian about manufacturing in Florida. We have about 15 minutes to spend with each other. You heard Dave talk this morning about growth in GDP. Well, when you think of manufacturing, the measure that I'm always keeping my eye on is growth in productivity. And much like GDP, we see the state of Florida outpacing other states by a lot. When you look at productivity growth rate, we're still pretty far behind. But that challenge of can we be a number 5 manufacturing employment state by 2030 seems very achievable. And that's really because of what we see in terms of the growth and the type of companies that we have in Florida, the upskilling of our workforce and that workforce infrastructure. So as we see that growing at an unbelievable pace, we're truly excited about the possibilities. And it's companies like Jezai that are changing that sort of fabric of Florida manufacturing. And with that, I'll introduce Adrian. And Adrian, if you could just tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, no problem. My name's Adrian Little with JSI Metal Fabrication. We're located in Apopka, Florida. We've got about 30 employees. We design and build aircraft maintenance stands for the military. About 90% of our business is for the DoD. We deliver all around the world. Osan Air Base in South Korea, Iwakuni, Japan. We're going to Germany this summer, as well as RAF Lodenhall. When you come to our facility, we are manufacturing. We bring in the raw material, raw stock, raw extrusions of aluminum, stainless steel, sheets, tubes, angles. We cut, machine, water jet, bend, and it goes out as a product, right, to support the defense of our country.
So it's interesting that Adrian mentioned that, he runs a 30-person company. And when we think of manufacturing, often we think of the very large companies that are here, the Lockheed Martins of the world. But the vast majority of manufacturers in the state of Florida, of which there's over 24,000, are actually under 20 employees. So you're a large company, but the average size is actually 17. And that's what makes up that factor. These are the folks that are going to fill those trucks they were talking about sending out empty this morning. So, but not unlike, I think, all industries, we're challenged with, manufacturing is challenged with the issue of workforce. And where are you going to get that workforce? And where's that next generation coming from? And supply chain. And I had the opportunity to drag Adrian around Washington and actually drag him around Tallahassee to tell the story. But that central story is that issue of workforce and that next generation workforce. And you had some very interesting approaches to how you solve that problem, which I think would be interesting to share with the audience if you could.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously I'm a big proponent of manufacturing. I can see what it does. I see what it does for people. I see what it does for individuals, how it uplifts them, and I see what it does for them in their family, right? And the amount of pride that it gives them. So I'm a big proponent of that. Yes, workforce is a major concern for us. As a small business, we're always there. Most of the work that you see comes from Lockheed, Boeing, Northrop Grumman. Most of that work is trickled down to small business, and we do a lot of that work. Well, so we have the workforce, right? So one of our biggest issues is skills, right? Skills gaps. So obviously when the pandemic hit, we're now in the same workspace as Amazon, Target, right? We're now in those workspaces. They've come down to basically where we're at, and they're
those logistics guys.
Exactly, and they're poaching employees, right? So we've had to change our game and really look at it not only from a short term, but a long term strategy, right? And so short term would obviously mean going to Indeed, going to the job board, and getting folks in. But long term, what do we want to do? What do we want to establish? Because once we establish, if our workforce is established, right, we have continuity, We have dependability, we have repeat business, right? So we want to continue to establish that, right? So one of the things that we've started to do is one, for me, to get out, spread the word, like, hey, right? Get out to Valencia Community College or Valencia College, get out to the elementary schools, right? Get out to the middle school and start early. Really thinking about it in a long, in a wide scope. Manufacturing has kind of been pushed to the side, right? World War II, World War I, World War II, the big push has been, hey, go to school, get a 4-year degree. Don't work with your hands, right? Last administration said we're bringing all this work back. Okay, since we've done this for so long, who's going to do the work? Hence where we're at. So we've got this situation we've got to deal with, right? So we've got to kind of rethink about things, really show our young folks, right, that hey, manufacturing, you can make a great living, right? We've had an individual that came in, I think three years ago, making $18 an hour. Recently got a pay raise to $75,000 a year. I think that's pretty good, right? All in manufacturing, right? And in small business, right? You didn't have to go to a large business to receive that type of compensation, right? So it's really getting the word out and really implementing our strategy of, hey, look, we're in it for the long term. We're not going away, right? And really investing in our people, investing in our young folks. Getting involved with FloridaMakes, manufacturing in Central Florida, going through the apprenticeship program, developing an apprenticeship program, an internship program to grow and maintain our pipeline. We look at our employee pipeline just like our sales pipeline.
So the other big challenge that manufacturers are facing, you'll hear it throughout this conference, even the speaker prior to this, and even throughout the 2030 report, is the issue of supply. We've all seen our dependencies on foreign supply channels get corrupted through the pandemic, stop through the pandemic, increase in pricing through the pandemic, and it becomes a real choke point. Are you having to deal with issues related to supply? Are you having any particular challenges? Or are you having any unique ways of sort of working your way around those issues?
Right, that's a great question, Kevin. The short answer is yes, right? So when the pandemic hit, we pretty much go to all the same metal suppliers as small folks, big folks, they all go to the same metal suppliers. When the pandemic hit, the big boys bought up a lot of the material, right? It left us little folks scrambling, right? So I just was talking to a bank before I arrived here. We went from paying $150 for a 1/4 by 4x8 sheet of steel to $363. Same sheet, right? Same sheet, right? It instantly went up like that, right? So we were obviously left at a disadvantage. They were able to continue to supply, right? And we had to tell our customers to wait, right? So that has been an issue. So you couple that with resources, right? With staffing issues, and then we've got to deal with them, right? So how have we done it, right? So we've gone back to our customers. Most of our customers have understood, and then also our supply chain. Our supply chain is connected to a bunch of other small businesses. Yes, we do metal fabrication, but we don't powder coat. That's a small business that does the powder coating, right? We do metal fabrication, but we don't do zinc plating or finishing. That's another small business, right? So we understood that everyone was being affected. Everyone was being affected, right? So we did a lot to communicate, and also we did a lot to also communicate with them to bring them in and see and discuss the challenges that we're going through, right? And try to come up with a solution. Come up with a solution, right? And we haven't seen the fruition of the results yet, but we know that we're moving in the right direction, right?
So on our tours, I'll switch back to our world run tours around Washington D.C. with our legislators and Florida with our legislators. I think one of the things I'm always surprised about is their discovery that Florida is a manufacturing state. You know, they just, what are you talking about? And we show them numbers sometimes, and say, can we have those numbers for their own sort of districts? It's kind of scary, but true. Talk a little bit about being a manufacturer in Florida and what you see as sort of maybe the opportunities that exist there, or maybe some of the barriers that we need to look at going forward if we're gonna become that number 5 manufacturing state. What are some of the things that we need to work on policy-wise, and maybe even just business infrastructural-wise?
Right. Good question. So
I didn't give him that question, so he's in there, he's probably cursing me right now. Go ahead.
So
we have extra time, so I'm working.
But no, it's like you said, you know, when everyone thinks of Florida, they think of Mickey Mouse, tourism, busch gardens, beaches, palm trees, and all of that. You know, my view is that everyone comes through Florida. Everyone's coming to Florida, right? And there's a lot of talent that comes through Florida from out of the state, right? And we can capitalize on that talent, right? So they come down, they want to enjoy the weather, right? We can capitalize on that as manufacturers, right? So Florida has a lot of good things going for it as far as the weather, the climate. I don't know how you pour concrete in when there's a blizzard, right? I don't know how you do a lot of things, in that climate. But Florida, we have that as a benefit, right? So part of my belief was, being asked was going to the state capitol and going to the nation's capital and communicating the message to our legislators on how important manufacturing is, right? What it can do for our lives, right? Some of the challenges that we're facing and how they can help, right? And who better to hear it from than the manufacturers themselves, right? So it was myself, it was a couple other folks in the manufacturing space, and we're all going through the same thing, right? It's like we're in a fraternity, right? We're in a fraternity, right? And we're all got a head on each other's shoulders. We're all crying, but we're all sticking together because we know that we're playing a long game, right? And from our clients, especially the space industry, I mean, we see what happens over there at SpaceX, where before Elon Musk is shooting off rockets like he's changing his socks, right? So there's an investment that's coming to Florida, and we want to be able to capitalize it. We like South Carolina, we like Alabama, we like Florida more, right? So and that's what really what we're pushing, right?
Well, I want to appreciate the time you took. I think you got here about 5 minutes before you come on the stage, so I was about to come up and do finger puppets for you guys. Make up some stories about manufacturers. One of the things you'll hear throughout this conference, which is kind of a backdrop, is a discussion about, Trade and Logistics 2030. And we were heavily invested in participating in the rollout of that report. When I first started working down here on manufacturing in Florida not too long ago, I think it was only the chamber that was signaling this important industry to the economy, important industry to the workforce and to the standard of living. And so I'm particularly excited about the fact that the report's out there and it's beginning to amplify that. When we talk about going to Washington, we talk about going to Tallahassee, it isn't necessarily just a mission of, we need money, we need this. It's to really, as Adrian says, stress the importance and the presence of manufacturing to our economy, to our resiliency, to a lot of the members, to our security. And so we're particularly happy and we're getting behind as much as possible the assimilation and distribution of that report. So thank you, Adrian, for coming here and sharing your stories with the audience as we try to put you know, trade and logistics 2030 into context. So thank you very much for having me.